Now, Maine has become the second US state to disqualify Donald Trump from next year's presidential election. Colorado was the first state to block Trump, the Republican frontrunner, from running over his role in the Capitol riots on January the 6th, 2021. It makes him the first candidate in US history to be deemed ineligible for presidency for engaging in insurrection. Trump's team has vowed to appeal, calling the decision atrocious. But can Trump still run for presidency? Let's get some more details on this. Scott Lucas, Professor of International Politics, joins me now. Scott, thank you very much indeed. For those who don't keep a close eye on American politics, on US politics, can you break down exactly what has happened? I understand that the Republicans are appealing this and that actually Trump is now back on the ballot in Colorado.
Well, here's the big picture. In the United States, there's not just one election for president. There's 50 different state elections to get onto the Republican, to become the Republican candidate, and then for the general election. So what you have is that some states have started Trump can remain on the ballot. They include California, Minnesota, and Michigan. But as you noted, the Colorado Supreme Court has said he cannot be on the ballot because of his support of insurrection. And the Maine Secretary of State said that yesterday. Now, both in Maine and in Colorado, those decisions to keep Trump off the ballot will not take effect until we go through an appeals process.
Right.
So in other words, if Trump's lawyers successfully appeal in the next few days, he'll be back on the ballot for the primaries in those states, which both take place in the first week of March. But of course, if his appeal is unsuccessful, no, he will be removed from at least those two state ballots and possibly a few more by the time we get to the heart of the Republican primary season.
Do you suspect that the appeal will be successful?
I would never try to prejudge what justices would say in this. At the end, they've got to make the legal determination. What we're looking at is that in some cases, we're getting, as in Colorado, justices saying, yes, under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, if you engage in insurrection, you can be removed in the ballot. In other states like Michigan and Minnesota, they said, no, these are not grounds to remove someone who's running for president. So there's not a defined legal opinion right now that would cover all 50 states.
And what do the other Republican candidates for president have to say about all this?
Well, they all are going to come in and say it's terrible that the courts are doing this because they want Trump's voters. And as we've seen with the Republican Party since 2016, they're almost codependent with Trump. Even when they don't support his behavior, even when they know what he did was so serious before the Capitol attack, to come out and to criticize Trump directly would risk alienating a significant block of Republican voters. I wouldn't say a majority, but a significant block that support Trump. And they want them not only to become the Republican nominee, but if they succeed, to defeat Joe Biden next November.
And how are Democrat voters reacting to this? Are they supportive of these court's decisions?
I think Democrat voters, by and large, are saying two things. One is, look, let the legal process run. But what's serious here is the significant evidence that Trump did engage in insurrection. But secondly, I think not just Democratic voters, but a lot of other voters are saying, look, at the end of the day, we've got really important issues in America. Education, healthcare, immigration, the economy, foreign policy. Donald Trump is sucking all the oxygen out of the room where those issues, and indeed other candidates like Nikki Haley, aren't being discussed because the Trump circus is the one where he's the ringmaster.
And who's the second frontrunner behind Trump on the Republican side?
At this point, it's Nikki Haley. Now, there are others like Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, still running, Chris Christie, Vivek Ramaswamy. But in the polls for the first primary, which is in New Hampshire, significantly next to Maine, on January 23rd, Haley has surged, coming from about 10% in the polls to up to 30% in one poll. She's still behind Trump. But if she runs a strong second in New Hampshire, the next primary, it's in South Carolina.
And what's she doing right? What is Nikki Haley doing right? That's a big increase in support.
Nikki Haley is a very firm conservative. It's not like she's from the center of the Republican Party, but she's trying to define her position in two ways. One is she's taking certain stances on issues that are significant. She's not coming down for a hardline ban on abortion from the federal government, and some Republican voters tend to sympathize with that. But secondly, she's presenting the idea that she's the stable and competent person and not the person who happens to be, under indictment in 4 criminal cases facing 91 felony charges.
And Ron DeSantis. Many people had high hopes for him? Is he falling behind?
Yes, he is falling behind in the polls. First of all, in what is called the caucus, the town hall meetings in Iowa, which are on January 15th, where he had hoped to be in the lead, and then he's falling behind in New Hampshire. He's having problems in terms of his campaign staff. A lot of them had left. There's problems over campaign finance. But the big thing here is that DeSantis has not been able to out-Trump Trump. He's tried to be even more hardline than Trump on certain issues. But at the end of the day, there's only one Donald Trump.
Well, there you go. We'll end it there. Thank you very much, Scott Lucas, Professor of International Politics, running us through what's happening in the States with regards to Donald Trump. Maine has ruled that Donald Trump cannot run for president next year in the election, but we'll see what happens. They will no doubt appeal.